Ibanez makes some of the most iconic and distinctive guitar shapes of all time, but how do we know which one is right for you? Let's break it down. So before we dive into the guitars, let's talk a little bit about Ibanez's history. Ibanez as we know it started in the 50s, where they started making replicas of pre-existing guitars that were very expensive to import to Japan. And so they started evolving at that time as well, and in the early 80s they started making something called the RG, which is probably Ibanez's flagship guitar and the one that we all think of when we think about Ibanez. Since then, Ibanez have been consistently innovating across all of their ranges to bring something for every single player. But enough of the history lesson, let's get into the guitars. So if we start with the flagship guitar from Ibanez, the RG. Now these were designed in the 80s and they quickly became one of the most popular guitars basically of all time. There's a few things that make them different from other guitar brands, and that's namely the thinner neck, which people associate with Ibanez. These are called wizard necks. They're generally quite a bit more thin than your standard guitar necks that you get on other brands, which makes them way more playable. You've got insane fret access up the top, and because of the finish and the flatness of the fretboard, you're going to be able to play a lot faster generally on these guitars because you're not hindered by anything that's getting in the way. Most RGs feature a double locking trem, meaning that they lock here and here, which means you can do disgusting stuff like this. The RG has been used by a plethora of different players over the years, including some of my favorites like Paul Gilbert and Monkey and Head from Korn, but you can find them in lots of studios where they've been used by session guitarists and also home enthusiasts alike. But don't let the pointiness of the guitar fool you. These things are actually incredibly versatile, in particular because of the way that the 5-way blade works. You can get some of those in-between tones that you would have got in some other different guitars, and you're also going to be able to get some split chord positions that you wouldn't get on normal guitars as well because of different loadouts that the RG series has. Let's dive into some of them now. Next in the lineup is the S Series. Now these are very similar to the RG series in terms of the loadouts and the things you can get on them, but there is one big key difference, and that's the size of the body. Much like the neck, they are wizardly thin, meaning that they are way more lightweight and you're able to throw them about a little bit more. Much like the RG, you get different loadouts of pickups and hardware. So for instance, you can get ones with fixed bridges and double locking trems and all of those things, and HSH options as well. So if you're looking for an RG that's maybe a little bit sleeker, then maybe the S Series is for you. Little bonus history lesson for you too. The S in S Series actually stands for Sabre and not Slimline or Slim, as many people think, because the Sabre series was initially a different model that turned into the Joe Satriani signature model. And then we ended up with this being the S Series instead. I told you I wasn't going to give you another history lesson, but tough. Next up is my personal favorite, the AZ series. Now these were introduced in 2018 as a more traditional style instrument for the modern player. But don't let the look fool you, these things have got modern features jam-packed throughout. So for instance, we've got roasted maple necks, stainless steel frets so you're not going to wear them down as easily, and we've got top quality Goto hardware on all of these, along with Seymour Duncan pickups in most of the models. These guitars are designed for both professionals and enthusiasts alike, meaning that you probably see one on a country gig or a blues gig, but also on a disgusting metal show or an outrageous rock show as well, because these things, as I said before, do everything from A to Z. As a nod to their versatility, the AZ series has actually become one of the most signatured out guitars, meaning that you get players like Andy Timmons who have a signature, but also people like Tim Henson from Polyphia, which means that they're covering so much stylistic and tonal ground. This is the Ibanez Artcore series. Now, these are obviously retro-inspired sort of vintage machines, potentially designed for players who are looking for tone over speed, although you can still play quite quickly on them. These are obviously designed for the players that are doing some more of that rolled off thing, particularly in the jazz thing or country or blues. But one of the things that's really interesting about them, to me at least, is that they have a slightly shorter scale length. So most Ibanez guitars come with a 25.5-inch scale length. These ones are 24.75. So if you're looking for a more traditional approach to an instrument and you maybe want a little bit more ease of bending, then one of these is definitely going to be up your street and something to consider when you're looking at these guitars. Next up, we're going to look at some of the more alternative shapes from Ibanez. So this one is an Iceman. Again, like the Artcore series that I was just playing, this one's got a shorter scale length. So again, it's 24.75 and it's got individual controls, etc. So it kind of does that thing. But Ibanez also do a bunch of other shapes as well. So they've got the Xiphos series, which is like a large X. And we've got other variations on the Iceman. So there's a 7-string version currently. But we've also got things like the Headless series, the Q series, which is their ergonomic version of the S series, essentially, where they've taken sort of the shape and they've taken bits off of it and obviously made it headless, just to make it a little bit more ergonomic and easy to play. Now is a good time for me to mention that there are variations on some of the models that you see behind me. So for the RG series, we have subdivisions of the RGD series, which has got longer scale lengths. So if you're into downtune playing, maybe it's worth looking at those. Or we've got the RGA, which has got a slightly more contoured top. We've also got variations on things like the AZ series as well. So there's a T-style guitar that they also provide, which has got more traditional T-style loadout. So those things are worth checking out if you're looking for a more professional guitar that you can use all the time that has the same Ibanez feel and playability. So if you're looking at some of these models and you wish they did something slightly different, it might be worth heading over to the website to have a look at some of the different options available for some of these different guitars. Speaking of variations, let's have a look at some of the signature guitars that I've got behind me, which are basically versions of the guitars that are already existing as the standard range, but they have the artist's own tweaks on them to make them more playable for their specific vibe. So to round up our look at the Ibanez range, let's take a look at some of the signature models. Now, this one is for Steve Vai, Tim Henson, and Nita Strauss, and they essentially provide the artist's own take on some of the existing models that we already have. So if you're looking for something that's got a little bit more unique flair and a bit more personality from the artist, then a signature model might be on your list. If you're a fan of Steve Vai, you're going to get all of the same things that he uses in his own music so that you can start replicating it or find your own voice entirely. Typically, these guitars come in as a little bit more expensive than the standard models, but that's because you're getting features and aesthetics that you won't get on the standard models at all. So for instance, on this, I've got a handle. We've also got these wonderful inlays. So this is the Tree of Life inlay. We have the Tree of Death inlay on this, and we also have the Heartbeat inlay on the Nita Strauss model, along with some different pickups. So she's got custom etchings on those, and we've got specific pickups for specific artists as they use them. So to wrap up our video, I'm going to give you a bit of buying advice when it comes to just buying any guitar or an Ibanez. So generally you want to try guitars in person because it's really hard to get an idea of exactly how things feel. So for instance, there's big differences between the AZ series and also the RGs in terms of the way the necks are carved, in terms of the tone and the layout of the controls and all these things. So it's worth spending a bit of time and getting to grips with that if you can. If you're unable to make it to a showroom, you could always look at some of the specs online and see whether you think that that would fit the vibe and the playing style that you have. But don't think you have to have a £2,000 made in Japan Ibanez to get the best results. A lot of these models are way more affordable, and they come in at between £300 to £700, but they're just as reliable realistically. Like for instance, I've played guitars that are roughly £600 from the Ibanez range, and I've used them on professional recordings and they've sounded just as good. And in the mix as well, you really can't tell that stuff, whether it was a £2,000 guitar or a £600 guitar, as long as it does the job and it fits your aesthetic and your playing vibe. It's well worth looking at some of those more affordable models. However, if you know exactly what you want out of a guitar, it'll be worth checking out the Prestige series of Ibanez's. These are essentially all made in Japan. I've been using this Prestige AZ for maybe the last 8 months, and it's replaced possibly 3 of my guitars actually because it's so versatile. And what you're getting on there is higher end specs in terms of the hardware and the pickups and maybe stainless steel frets and stuff like that. So if you're looking for your next forever guitar or the guitar that you're not going to replace, it'll be worth checking out some of those Prestige options. So let us know which Ibanez is your pick in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, you can like and subscribe to see more things like this, and you can head over to the Gear for Music website where you'll be able to check out the entire Ibanez range in its full glory. I've been Tom Pankhurst for Ibanez here at Gear for Music, and I'll see you next time.